Lionel Richie, Carrie Underwood, and Luke Bryan returning for American Idol Season 20 for the name Caitlin Clark has become more than a headline. It's a cultural shift. From packed college arenas to trending hashtags and front-page sports stories, Clark has sparked a wave of national attention rarely seen in women's athletics. Next week, the Dearborn Public Library invites readers, sports fans, and culture watchers alike to take a deeper look into her story. On Thursday, September 4th, from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m., award-winning USA Today columnist, New York Times bestselling author and television commentator Christine Brennan will lead a virtual conversation hosted by the Henry Ford Centennial Library. Brennan, a trailblazer in sports journalism, will discuss her new book, Caitlin Clark, Marching Toward Madness, a fast-paced, deeply reported chronicle of Clark's rise from Iowa sensation to WNBA powerhouse. Christine Brennan, submitted photo. Christine Brennan, submitted photo. The book reads like a sports documentary in print, following Clark's electrifying NCAA performances, social media stardom, and her growing influence as a symbol of change in women's sports. But it also dives into the questions behind the headlines. Why now? Why her? And what does her sudden fame mean for the future of women's basketball? During her long and storied career, Brennan has covered 10 Olympics, written for decades about gender equity in sports, and famously broke barriers in locker room access for female journalists. She brings unmatched perspective to the conversation. In Caitlin Clark, Marching Toward Madness, she traces not just Clark's personal journey, but the legacy of women's basketball and how Clark's career is rewriting its place in the sports world. Through interviews, on-the-ground reporting, and historical context, Brennan reveals the pressures, double standards, and breakthroughs that define Clark's story. The result is a compelling, up-to-the-minute portrait of an athlete whose time has come and who's reshaping the game in real time. The press and guide chatted with Brennan about her book, Clark, both on and off the basketball court, and her continued influence on the sport. When asked about why she wanted to write this book, Brennan explained the moment's significance. Caitlin Clark has changed the conversation about women's sports in a way I've never seen in 4 decades of covering them. Her story isn't just about basketball. It's about power, visibility, and young girls finally seeing themselves as the center of the story. Brennan situates Clark in a lineage of women's basketball legends such as Cheryl Miller, Diana Taurasi, and Maya Moore. She also stresses the timing that sets Clark apart. We've had greats before, but Caitlin Clark is arriving at a time when the world is actually listening. She's the right player in the right era, and that makes her impact even larger than the box score. As Brennan reported in the book, one thing that struck her most was Clark's poise under pressure. She'll spend an extra half-hour signing autographs because she remembers being that little girl waiting for a hero, she says. The poise she shows at 22 is something most athletes never find in a lifetime. Looking ahead, Brennan believes Clark could become the defining face of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark isn't just joining the WNBA. She's redefining it. She could do for women's basketball what Tiger Woods did for golf. Of course, with fame comes scrutiny. Brennan notes Clark's ability to transform criticism into fuel. The bigger the stage, the calmer she gets. That's the Caitlin Clark effect. She doesn't run from pressure. She welcomes it. But Brennan is careful to point out that Clark's story is larger than any single athlete. This isn't just Caitlin's story. It's the story of every girl who was told she couldn't. Her rise tells us that when women are given the stage, the world will show up to watch, she said. That cultural resonance matters. Brennan emphasized how Clark's visibility has inspired a generation of young athletes. Every time Caitlin Clark steps on the court, a 10-year-old girl somewhere decides she wants to play, too. She's giving kids permission to dream bigger than ever before. In Brennan's view, Clark is also part of a broader cultural moment. Caitlin Clark isn't just a basketball player. She's a cultural moment. She reminds us that when women succeed, it changes how we see leadership everywhere, she said. Not everyone is eager to embrace that success. Critics have questioned Clark's impact, something Brennan confronts head-on in the book. If Caitlin Clark were a man, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Her critics prove exactly why her success matters. Writing the book itself proved a challenge, Brennan admits. Clark's rise was so rapid that events often outpaced the manuscript. By the time I finished a chapter, Caitlin had already broken another record. It was like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. The media's role in this story, Brennan says, has been crucial, but not controlling. The media didn't create Caitlin Clark, but it recognized that ignoring her was no longer an option. Her story shows us what happens when the spotlight finally points in the right direction. And as for what comes next, Brennan doesn't hesitate. The WNBA is just the beginning of Caitlin Clark's story. She's poised to become one of the most influential athletes of her generation. Full stop. The virtual talk with Christine Brennan is free and open to the public. Advanced registration is required at bit.ly/3ULRs1T. For more information, call the Henry Ford Centennial Library at 313-943-2330 or visit dearbornlibrary.org. Additional support for the program is provided by Dearborn's Bryant and Esper Branch Libraries.